you consider yourself strong, independent, capable of making your own decisions? Great. Now tell me, why does any stupid comment still get you riled up? If someone provokes you, you react. If someone ignores you, you feel offended. If someone says something you don't like, you twist inside. Is that strength? Number. That's being tamed. You think you're free, but you live like a trained animal. You react to stimuli. Just like a dog. Either you wag your tail or you growl. Nietzsche would say this is the lowest form of human existence, the being who hasn't learned to master itself. No, you are not special for feeling anger. You are not more authentic for exploding. That's just the symptom of a fragile ego, one that depends on others' validation to exist. Nietzsche didn't want you to be calm. He wanted you to be dangerous, in the deepest sense of that word, and the dangerous person doesn't react. He observes. Most people live like walking sensors. Everything offends them, everything irritates them, everything is personal. But the truth is, whoever gets offended by everything still has no identity of their own. Lives on the surface, in the skin, the ego. And everything that wounds the ego feels like an existential attack. But Nietzsche's real provocation is this. If something still affects you so much, it's because you still don't know yourself. And while you don't know yourself, any idiot can control you, can enter your mind with a few words, steal your day, your peace, your focus, make you lose hours, planning revenge, perfect comebacks, arguments you'll never deliver. You feed on anger and think it's fuel, but it's poison, a slow poison that consumes you from within and blinds you to what really matters, your own transformation. Nietzsche is not here to comfort you. He's here to slap a harsh truth on your face. If you still allow yourself to be dragged by anger, you're still on the lowest level of your power. And the worst part, most people are comfortable there, complaining about the world, people, offenses, but with no courage to look inside, because it's a lot easier to blame others than to admit, I am weak. That's the sentence nobody wants to speak out loud, but it's the only one that begins the evolution process, because only someone who admits his weakness can decide to become truly strong. Nietzsche would call this the will to power, the strength born from brutal confrontation with one's self. And if you're not willing to do that, stay there, reacting like the tamed. But stop calling yourself free. You think you're in control, but actually, you're programmed. Yes, programmed to react. Since childhood, they taught you that responding quickly is a sign of intelligence, that fighting back is a sign of strength, that standing your ground is a sign of power. But Nietzsche would say, that's not power. That's conditioning. You're an emotional puppet. Every provocation pulls a string, and you dance. Called dumb, you need to prove how smart you are. Ignored, you need to get attention. Contradicted, you need to win the argument. What you call response is actually reflex, and reflex is instinct, not choice. Nietzsche knew that ordinary human beings live at the level of reaction, a slave to the moment, to the emotion of the day, to the opinions of others. Their life swings between what people do to them and what they feel because of it. But here's the turn. Every time you react, you hand over your center of power to someone else. And this, to Nietzsche, is the greatest of sins. Not moral, existential. He believed that the true individual, what he called the Übermensch, the overman, was someone who has overcome this trap. Someone who does not live on autopilot, who doesn't respond to the world as a mirror, but who creates, chooses, transcends. You know why? Because reacting is easy. Creating is hard. Any child fights back. Any teenager insults who insults them, but the fully realized adult looks at the attack and decides, I will not waste my energy on this. And that is not cowardice. That is mastery. Nietzsche didn't want you to be passive. He wanted you to be selective, to decide which battles are worth fighting. And, more importantly, which ones you've already won just by refusing to lower yourself to them. But for that, you need something most lack: inner distance. The capacity to step back inside yourself and ask, does this reaction serve me, or does it just addict me? The truth is harsh. You're not reacting to others. You're reacting to your own insecurity, your wounded pride, your need for control. The other only shows where you are still weak, and Nietzsche would say, great, use that, not to fight back, to grow. The challenge here is not to be at peace, it's to be whole. Even when the world tries to break you, and you can only do that when you stop responding in anger and begin responding with awareness. The common human being is an echo. The elevated being is a center of gravity. Which one do you want to be? Let's make something clear. The world isn't neutral. People test you all the time, sometimes consciously, sometimes by pure reflex. But the fact is, there's a game going on. And if you haven't noticed, you're being used like a pawn. Nietzsche knew provocation is a weapon, and it's not used just to attack, but to measure who you are, to measure how much you know yourself, to measure if you're strong enough not to react as expected. Have you ever thought about why certain comments hit you so hard? It's not about what was said, it's about what you haven't resolved inside you. The provocateur only pushes the button, and if you explode, congratulations, he won. Because his goal wasn't to win the argument, it was to knock you off your center. Nietzsche would call it human theater, each one performing on the stage of their own insecurity. Some attack, others react, all trying to appear stronger than they really are. And in that game of vanities, the one who wins is the one playing off script. Most follow the script. Got humiliated? Hit back. Been disrespected? Lash out. Ignored? Panic. All predictable. And whatever is predictable is manipulable. Want to beat the game? Then stop playing at the level of words. Start playing at the level of presence. When someone provokes you, they expect a reaction. If you don't deliver, if you don't respond, don't flinch, don't lose your center, you break the logic. And that, Nietzsche knew, is one of the greatest acts of power there is, disappointing your attacker's expectation. But here's the secret. To do this, you need to be above the dynamic. And that demands a kind of strength that isn't explosive. It's silent. It's the strength of someone who knows themselves well enough not to defend every attack. You don't need to prove you're smart. You don't need to prove you're strong. You don't need to prove anything. If you still feel you need to, then you're still playing the wrong game. Nietzsche said that the weak hate the strong, but poorly imitate the strong. Try to seem invulnerable, but are always on edge. Always ready for war, because deep down they're terrified of being exposed. The provocateur smells this, and he pokes where it hurts, because he doesn't want to destroy you. He wants to see if you will destroy yourself. So next time someone tries to wound you, don't ask, why did they do that? Ask, why am I still so vulnerable to this? The answer won't be pleasant, but it will free you. If you think you'll become strong just by not caring anymore, forget it. Nietzsche didn't want you apathetic. He wanted you an alchemist. What does an alchemist do? He transforms. True power is not suppressing emotions. It's transforming anger into awareness, pain into potency, provocation into clarity. That is transmutation. Nietzsche saw resentment as the greatest emotional prison. Not the shout, not the punch, but the silent rancor. That hatred you hold, pretend you forgot, but that eats you from the inside, that it becomes addiction, feeds you fantasies of revenge, and weakens you. He called this the slave morality. When you have no real power, you invent a moral universe to make yourself feel superior. But inside, still dominated. You know what the antidote is? Amor fati, love of fate. Nietzsche wasn't preaching resignation, he was preaching transcendence. Amor fati is to look at everything that happens, including what hurts, what wounds, what humiliates, and say, yes, I accept it, I use it, I get stronger because of it. It's not about liking what happened. It's about not wasting anything that happened. While the weak drown in resentment, the strong bathe in lucidity. They transform every fall into analysis, every attack into revelation, every provocation into training. You don't need to get revenge on anyone. Just evolve so much that they can't reach you anymore. That is the true answer. It doesn't come in words, it comes in presence. Nietzsche didn't believe in forgiveness as weakness. He believed in overcoming as superiority. When you stop needing to match others, it's because you've already won internally. But this demands courage. Courage to look into yourself and ask, what am I still carrying? What stories do I repeat to justify my hatred? How much energy do I waste on people who don't even deserve my thought? To transmute is not beautiful, it is brutal. You'll have to face your own thirst for vengeance, your hidden delight in self-pity, your anger used as identity. Then choose differently, not out of weakness, but out of decision. Nietzsche believed the strongest are those who have the audacity to create new values, to not react the way the world expects, to not repeat inherited cycles, and above all, to refuse to become a mirror of your aggressors. You want to see if you're evolving? Look at the last person who tried to provoke you, and ask, do they still hold any power over my inner state? If the answer is yes, good. You still have work to do. If it's no, then you've begun to understand what it means to be truly free. There is a rare kind of human. You insult them, they don't react. You disrespect them, they stay still. You yell, they stay composed. But it's not because they are peace and love. It's because they are inviolable. Nietzsche would understand this kind, because he did not believe in being nice as a virtue. He despised the behavior of the moral man who pretends to rise above anger, but inside is full of poison. The inviolable is different. He doesn't fake calm, he is calm, because he has already understood that the true struggle was never with others, it was with his own ego. The inviolable isn't shaken by shouts, provocations, or personal attacks. Not because they are immune to pain, but because they refuse to let anyone control their inner state anymore. They built a center of gravity inside themselves, a core that is solid, untouchable, and everything around them can try to shake them, but they do not sway, because they do not live in the realm of reaction, they live in the realm of creation. Nietzsche saw this as the pinnacle of human evolution, not a person who dominates others, but one who dominates himself in the presence of others. True power for Nietzsche is when you no longer need to prove, nor defend, nor explain, because you know who you are. And more, you know who others are. You see the need behind the provocation, the insecurity dressed up as arrogance, the craving for validation that screams when someone tries to attack you. You see it all with clarity, and you do not react, because you've been there, but you chose to leave. The inviolable does not avoid conflict, but they do not shrink before it. They do not reduce themselves to reactivity. They do not need to win the argument, because they've already won the need to argue. The provocation loses power in front of them. The attack dissolves, because there is nowhere left to strike. And that is what weak people fear most, the silence of those who do not need to win to prove strength. Do you want to become this kind of person? Then stop reacting and begin building. Now that you understand the game, now that you know that reacting means being manipulated, that getting irritated means being tamed, that exploding means being predictable, comes the hardest part. Change. Because it's easy to understand Nietzsche, hard to embody him. To transmute anger into clarity is not an intellectual process, it's an existential one. and it begins in the most uncomfortable place. You. You need to start observing yourself like a stranger. When someone provokes you, instead of responding, analyze. What did that provocation trigger? Why did it affect me? What old wound is being pricked here? And most importantly, why am I still so available to be affected? That's the kind of question the ordinary person avoids. They'd rather follow the script, insult back, block, complain, post passive-aggressive statuses. Because looking inside demands responsibility. And Nietzsche despised victimhood. Anger, according to him, is a luxury of the weak. Because the strong don't have time for that. They are too busy building themselves. Want a simple and brutal exercise? Next time someone tries to provoke you, do nothing. Simply feel. Feel the anger rising, blood boiling, the urge to respond, and do nothing. Stay with it. Let it burn and observe. That's where the gold lies. Because in that place is your wound, your need, your blind spot. And if you have the courage to remain there, no escape, no distraction, no emotional catharsis, you begin to transform. Transform the impulse into consciousness, pain into clarity, weakness into self-knowledge. That is alchemy. That is Nietzsche. And it is rare. Most will call you cold. Others will say arrogant, but inside you know you're becoming a temple, and in a temple, no one enters without invitation, neither with words, nor with shouts, nor with insults. Will you still feel anger? Yes, but it will no longer dominate you. It will teach you, and each time that happens, you will not feel weak for not reacting. You will feel strong for having chosen not to be programmable. Nietzsche did not believe in easy overcoming. He knew that the process is solitary, harsh, uncomfortable, but also knew that it's in that discomfort that the new is born. The new you, the one who no longer needs protection, because there's nothing more to hide. The one who no longer needs to shout, because they already hear themselves within. The one who no longer needs to win, because they no longer feel threatened. This is transmutation. We've reached the point Nietzsche wanted from the start. After all, this talk isn't about self-control, not about staying zen, not about pretending not to feel anything. It's about power, but not the power to control others. It's the rarest kind of power of all, not being controlled by anyone. Do you want to be strong? Then forget the idea of strength as external domination. True strength doesn't belong to the one who shouts the loudest, punches hardest, or intimidates others. It belongs to the one no one can access without permission. Nietzsche would call that the free spirit, the one who no longer bows to any morality, any expectation, any attack. They are sovereign in their own world. Not out of arrogance, but out of autonomy. While the weak worry about image, the strong work on their structure. While the weak seek revenge, the strong evolve. While the weak try to win debates, the strong have already won the need to prove anything. That is the real game, and almost no one is playing. Most are too busy reacting, getting upset, defending themselves, wanting to teach someone a lesson, wanting to show who's boss, wanting to get justice. But Nietzsche would say, that's just another disguise for your weakness. If you need someone to respect you, it's because you still depend on that respect to exist. If you need to win over someone, it's because you still feel you're losing something. If you need to be feared, it's because you're still afraid. You don't need any of that. You just need yourself, whole. And this is not self-help. This is raw philosophy. It's Nietzsche telling you, without any softness, you will only be free when you stop being offended. Not because you've turned into a saint, but because you understood that the other never had that power. Insult only hurts where the ego is inflamed. Criticism only wounds where there is insecurity. Provocation only strikes where there is weakness. And when you look all of that in the face, without shame, without escape, without lies, You become what the world fears most, a being who cannot be shaken, a being who does not shout, a being who doesn't need to react, because they've already mastered themselves. Nietzsche doesn't want you to be nice. He wants you to be whole. Are you willing? Because in the end, the enemy was never the other. It was always your own need to prove yourself, and when that dies, the true power is born.